Thank you guys for being here. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, good. Also, before I start, is I have problems with my numbers, so I have cheat cards, so thank you to Jill. I won't make you stand up, but she worked with me in cognitive therapy, and she gave me the tools that I needed to make it successful. So whenever I have to deliver something like this, instead of saying 1-9 or 2-4, I can read the numbers. So thank you so much, Jill. So on July 21st, 2020 is when I got my brain injury. It was just a normal day, and this is not like, you won't hear me if I just yell. Okay. So it was a normal day, so I thought. I went outside to feed my fish, and upon coming back in the house is when a bee flew by my head, and I'm severely allergic to bees, so I freaked out and knocked myself out. And thankfully, my beautiful wife, Sheila, was home and got me the care that I needed. So
Trying to get in the back door.
Trying to get in the back door. So
away from the bee.
She was there for me, because if not, I don't know what I would have done. It would have been a totally different outcome, probably. And of course, my first thought was, instead of getting medical treatment, I kept saying, we got to call my boss. We got to come up. And of course, when I got in touch with her, she was like, go. So that's where the journey began. So November of 2023 is when we started the podcast. And that was also thanks to Jill. Jill, you were very instrumental in a lot of things that I've done. So I had complained that nobody was doing podcasts about brain injury. You look out there and all you see are people who are in the medical field, and all they do is talk about, this is what it's like to have a brain injury. Well, that's fine and dandy, but you don't live it. You don't know what it feels like. What is it? So after complaining, Jill said, why don't you do it? So I took that challenge, and here we are. We just celebrated our first year anniversary, and we have really grown the channel. We're really reaching people. I've made so many friends that I would have had. You really find out at times like this who has your back. The passion, the brain injury journey has been hard to find a purpose for my pain. Every night, when I went to bed, every night, I was trying to find a purpose. I would pray to God to help me find a purpose so I didn't feel so lost and lonely. And there's a lot of bad thoughts that go through your head. You've got a brain injury. I know I have a few people here today that knows what I'm talking about. Those thoughts of just saying, I'm giving up, I'm throwing in the towel. But I didn't do that. I kept searching for my purpose. I kept pressing on. So my life divided is a brain injury story with a purpose to help others heal, not only from their brain injuries, but from other traumas that they've experienced in their lives. Before I got in touch with Heather and I wrote my manuscript, every time I would sit down to write about my brain injury, I felt like God was putting things in my heart, tragedies, triumphs, everything that I lived through. And I thought, why are these coming up? Why are these coming up? So it finally dawned on me that through the healing that I've done, through the years of therapists and counselors that I've been with, that I could use that as a tool to help others heal through their pain, through their journey. So that's where this began. So what is a brain injury? A lot of people who sit here probably doesn't really realize a brain injury is not just what you see on television. It's not, you get upside the head and then a half hour later, everything's fine again. It's a lifelong journey, and it's something that everybody who has a brain injury deals with differently. You can line up 9 people in a row and put them in the head, and they all will display different types of symptoms. So that's where this comes from. So every 9 seconds in the United States, someone sustains a brain injury. And I've already went over the misconceptions. But that's what I wanted to make it clear and aware today. That brain injuries awareness is not just because you have a brain injury. It's like if you are preparing for a fire, tornado, or if you get on an airplane and then they tell you to get that oxygen mask and take care of yourself first. You want to make sure that in the event that you do have a brain injury, that you know what to do. You know how to take care of yourself. Because not everybody has a caregiver. I mean, my caregiver, the beautiful lady in the back with beautiful blue eyes, she is there for me. She's got my back. But the sad truth is a lot of people, they don't have that luxury. A lot of people, suicide rates are really high with brain injury. So that's why this is so important to use, to spread awareness, to also shed a light on this so that people can know how to be compassionate to someone who's got it. So here are some things that to know about. A person with a brain injury is a person first. They're not their injury. I've already covered that no 2 injuries are the same. The effects of the injury are complex and vary greatly from person to person. And the effects of the injury depend on factors such as the cause, location, and severity. Now this is how my life has changed. From just looking at me, I look normal, I look fine, but that's not the case. I have high anxiety. And for me to stand up here in front of all these people, this is no easy feat. Dedication to this. Comprehension. It takes me longer to understand what people are talking about. I don't get sarcasm like I used to. I take things very quite literal. And I'll give you an example of that. We were in Kroger's one day, and Sheila saw these hideous napkins, and I had them for but she says, oh, we need those. Well, she was being sarcastic with me. I didn't know she was being sarcastic. She's already halfway down the aisle and turns around, and I'm loading the car up with these hideous napkins. And she says, what are you doing? And I said, you said we need these. I was being sarcastic. So that's something that she also helps with too, because people will say things to me and she will let me know quickly they're being sarcastic, because I'll take them very seriously. Confusion ties back into this to the comprehension. Depression. That's an ongoing thing. That's something that's a day-to-day thing. Every day when you wake up is a question mark. The support, especially seeing this room full of all your faces, this is so touching to me that you guys made it out here and supported me. So this really helps, and I hope that you also use that compassion toward yourself as well. Headaches, that's the big one. That's the one that I have dealt with since the day in my head. They're migraine level headaches. All the doctors have tried medications, Botox injections, you name it, we've tried it. And nothing has taken the headache away. When it rains, when the barometric pressure changes, it's like my migraine hasn't migraine. But you just put a smile on your face, you press forward, and you just keep doing the best you can. And I'm fortunate that I have Ross that is very kind to me, she's compassionate, and she helps me as much as she possibly can. And that's what makes the difference for me to have to continue to work. The memory issues. Some days I can remember a couple of days, I might make a week. Sheila's all the time has to remind me of people who passed away. And it could have been a funeral I went to just a couple months ago, and I'll talk about the person like they're still here. And Sheila will remind me that, no, that person's passed away. So you have to kind of relive things like that. And also Sheila's found things where they don't belong, which kind of ties into the confusion and the memory issues. Things like finding the iPad in the refrigerator, the cell phone in the freezer a few times. Just things like that. That's our daily life. The noise sensitivity. If you guys like loud noises, that doesn't go very well with someone who has a brain injury. Things like, even for me, the ticking of a clock. A lot of people don't hear the tickings of the clock. But my sensitivity is so high that I hear those. And then impacts on sleep. That's a big one too. There's nights that I might get 2 hours of sleep. And you see a lot of things in the movie that you probably don't need to see. Things that, but I try to look for things that are positive and happy and helps you keep a good attitude. And then the podcast. The podcast began as a tool to help other survivors to have a sense of community, to be able to find a support system, to know that they're not alone in their journey. It's very important to healing and acceptance. The format also serves as an educational tool to others who don't understand what a brain injury is. Someone once said, you don't know what you don't know. And this has also served as a great resource for caregivers. They are the unsung heroes. They're the ones that have to think for two people. The brain injuries have always required just getting hit on the head. And here's just a few ways. An aneurysm, a brain hemorrhage, a brain tumor, carbon monoxide poisoning, cardiac arrest, encephalitis, I think I'm saying that right, meningitis, and a stroke. And that concludes the presentation. So do we have any questions?
You forgot brain part.
Yeah.
Sarcastic.
Anyone?
I don't know what all these words mean. Do they
So
surely mean something particular?
the reason behind the wires and the words that don't make any sense is because that represents what it's like to have a brain injury.
Okay.
So I wanted the wires to be because I like this mentally wire. Because you're not the same person you once was. And I didn't want the words to make any sense because when you have a brain injury, things just don't make sense. So that's what I did.
It's good because I would have gone and looked them all up.
So Robbie, as over these years since the injury, do you actually know that you're feeling better, or feeling better, or what's that feel like?
Every day's a question. I know when I wake up I'm going to hurt, but the level of how good or bad I hurt is every reason. No 2 days are wrong.
I was going, it first happened to you, there was a lot that you didn't understand, you couldn't comprehend, but it seems like it's gradually getting a little better. Do you understand what that is?
Yeah.
You feel that?
I do understand that. It's every day is just a little bit more growth, and everyone feels it different ways too. And just because they say you won't get better doesn't mean you won't. I mean, there's a guy in the crowd today that he became an attorney after his brain injury.
I've heard that in 10 years, that's a good span to give your brain to heal itself. Because your brain does start to heal itself.
Yeah. But they say the best healing for a brain injury is sleep. and that helps.
Because you're not thinking,
Right.
and nothing hurts. And put you at peace.
Yeah. And then also the tools. Like I said, I've got several people here today that has helped me through my journey. Counselors and doctors. They've given me the tools that I need to be successful, to keep pushing. You know, will I ever be 100 again? That's up in the air. But I'm not what I was. That's for sure.
Right, but it is changing
Yeah.
for better.
Yeah.
So you'll probably get to a place where you might just love it.
It very well could. And that's what we're all doing. To be honest with you, if I could wake up tomorrow and not have a headache, I would never do it. I'd probably go out and dance. What else?
Well, I think you're just phenomenal because, I would not know you had a brain injury. It's like you could be telling someone else's story because you are so normal. I mean, your words are good. They're great.
The invisible injury.
Pardon me?
It's the invisible injury.
Yes. But I live next door to him, and so I've seen how at first, it really was so obvious that he was not being able to think and get his words out, and now he's just so much better. I mean, great. You're great.
Yeah, I think of course as the day goes on, that's when the cognition slows down because you've used your energy up. And at the end of the day, Sheila will tell me sometimes because I don't recognize that I need to break. And when my words start coming out and they don't sound like words anymore, that's when Sheila will take me to the side and she'll say, "You need to go rest." Because I don't recognize that I need to go rest. I think I'm still fine. I just keep on go. And that's why it's so important.
Well, I'll just ask a question about identity and how do you sort of accept this new Rob that's there? It's not like you've changed completely. You're very much similar to who you were before the accident. But so how do you move through that?
It took a long time because I would say probably the first 3 years, I'm still around. The first 3 years, all I did was grieve the guy that I'm not, the guy that used to be able to stand up in front of a lot of people and sing, play the piano all the time. And I wish I could do that as much as I'd like to, but it gets somehow back together. It's that way. But then I finally got to the point where instead of looking at things that I couldn't do, I started looking at the things that I could do. I can still make people laugh. I can still cheer people up. And when you ask my coworkers, I can ruin a bad day really fast. So yeah, it's not easy, but I think it's whenever I try to lift others up, that's where I found the best joy in my life, and that's how it's just been pretty good for me.
Another question about this podcast that you're doing. Does everybody know what you're doing with the podcast, and how did you get to where you could lift up other people's voices?
Yeah, so when we first started the podcast, it was hard to get people to want to come on because other survivors don't really like to talk about their problems that much and like to help people more. Because I think a lot of us feel like no one cares. And people do care, but they don't understand how to show that care and compassion. Because what they will do is they'll say, "You look great." Well, we don't like hearing that. And the reason we don't like hearing that is because, yeah, we look great, but that has nothing to do with what's going on inside. You don't see behind, like you have a car that's in pristine condition, but the motor's broke up on. The car looks great, sure, but was it fun? If that makes any sense. And then also to What's the podcast? Thank you. You can see my trail. ADD also kicked in too. She sees something shiny, it's like, it's gone. So yeah, the podcast, once we started getting people seeing what a podcast was, people wanted to come on and share their stories. It's so therapeutic for them to come on and say, hey, I have headaches, I have anxiety, depression, or whatever, and to get their voice out there so they feel heard, they feel acknowledged. So that's been great for not just for myself, but just for them as well. Since we built a community of people.
Where can the podcast be found for those that may not know?
Okay.
A lot of us are old, we don't know about podcasts.
So the podcast is started on YouTube, and it's just My Life Rewired. You look that up, it'll come up. And then also, it never dawned on me until it took another survivor to point this out to me. They said, we love podcasts, but we want to listen to them. I mean, it was so obvious, but so we've now got it on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and I think there's no place like and also we have business cards. I think that we bring this with.
Yeah, they're
Okay. We have a box of business cards that has a little QR code that you can scan with your smartphone and it'll take you right to the podcast. And we have tons of those, so if you want to grab some and hand out to anybody, you never know when you might be out in public and you'll hear a conversation and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I know somebody that might be able to help you. So, yeah, take as many as you want. They're very cheap.
Do you have a website?
Yes, also, thank you. That was another thing I wanted to mention. Heather helped me build a website about the book. So it's basically myliferewired.com. And not only is it about the book, but Heather helped me to merge the book and the podcast together. So it's still a work in progress, but it's looking really good. I said that. I normally wouldn't compliment myself, but thanks to all these professionals who really helped me, I compliment them. So, but there will be a place on the website that says episodes, and we're merging them to where, say if you have annuals, and you just want to watch any program you've ever done on any lessons, you can type in the search bar, it'll pop up every episode we've ever done on annuals. Or, you see any condition you can think of, anxiety, we've done several on anxiety. So yeah, it's going to be a really good tool, and I hope that you guys will please check it out.
Any other questions from anybody else about his writing process or experiences? All right, well, let's all give, please, here.
I have one question.
Sure.
I have never heard of Inner Peace Press. How did you connect with them?
That was how the book,
It's over here.
Heather will hold it.
Invisible.
The book called Invisible. So I had already written my manuscript, and when I got in touch with Heather's, because the lady that wrote that book was on my podcast, and it was all timing. I had literally just finished writing the manuscript, and I interviewed her, and after an interview, I like to talk with my guests and kind of look at my I have a question for you. I said, I've written a manuscript. I have no idea how to go about getting it published. I said, who did you use? And she goes, well, let me give you that information. She says, she's a wonderful lady. She loves to help people. She says, give her a call. So that's how that all started. And fun fact, when I first gave her a manuscript, it was not even half of what this is. So she really pressed me to dig deep into to get in there and There was many nights that she would wake up and say, at 1 o'clock in the morning, and she'd come to the office and I'm sitting right, and she goes, "Are you planning on going to sleep at some time?" I'm like, "You got more than 3 hours." So I really poured my heart and soul into it. And she really helped me polish off all of the comments.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions? So, yes, so those of you, thank you very much, Rob. Very nice